Pay is a big thing. You want to make sure that you're able to support yourself, your family, contribute to your community, right? Healthcare, retirement. But I think another pillar is that sense of belonging and belonging to an organization and having that fraternity, having those people that are there for you, that build that career pathway. And I think that that's something that workers are really calling out for in a way. And we see this around the country with different organized labor moments popping up.
If you've been following along how the IRA is incentivizing developers to think about workforce development, then certainly you've heard the term apprenticeship. See, apprenticeships have been something that is a centuries-old tradition of passing our trades along from one to another. And there's a journey, a process of helping train folks in the trades. Now, you may have heard the term blue collar, green collar, white collar. This whole idea of collar comes from the trades. And while they've often been given some sense of a lower esteem or establishment in today's modern business society, in fact, the trades inform how our infrastructure is built. I'm Nico Johnson, your host here at the Suncast Media Zone. We're live at Midwest Solar Expo. The Suncast Media Zone is brought to you by Solar Simplified. And I'm joined by Joe Kilcoyne, the IBEW Local 134 business representative and the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund representative. We're going to talk a bit more about apprenticeships and the career after the training. Joe, it's great to see you.
Nico, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise. And I would say as well, thanks to our friends at Powering Chicago, great partner for you all who do such good work for empowering and supporting the members in Powering Chicago to get that workforce development completed, to support the entrepreneurs in the construction space, to understand better how to integrate apprentices and how to really grow the trades again, right?
Absolutely.
I think that it's important for us at the outset to just describe the process of apprenticeship, far beyond like why should someone consider it, but what is apprenticeship as a formation process for the trades?
So an apprenticeship is a really important process of learning how to participate and develop your career pathway in a trade. I served my 5-year construction apprenticeship here in Chicago with Local 134. So first and foremost, I'm an electrician. I'm a union electrician, IBEW Local 134 electrician. Went through a 5-year apprenticeship program. The cornerstone of our training program, right? So when I talk to individuals about apprenticeship, I talk about a career pathway, career opportunity. And it's something that I really love doing. It's one of my favorite things to do as far as what I do now as a business rep. And I'm able to talk with individuals about what they're considering. I talk to high school students, I talk to college students, I talk to career change individuals, I talk to people who are looking at another opportunity at life and what that pathway might look like for them. And I had the opportunity where when I came out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go away to college. I was trying to feel my way through what that was, taking community college classes here and there. And I was lucky enough to have my dad's cousin is a Local 134 electrician, now retired, that pulled me aside and he said, "Have you heard about an apprenticeship?" And I said, "Well, I know you're an electrician, and why don't you tell me a little bit about it?" And it took him about 5 minutes of describing it to me, and I was on my pathway to apply for it. About a year later, I started my apprenticeship, and I'll tell you that I think it's one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life, and I've never looked back. It's hard work. Construction work is hard work. Right? But that apprenticeship, it gives you that on-the-job training, which gives you that confidence, right? We focus on safety. We focus on all the aspects that what it takes to be an electrician. And then when you get out there in the field and you start practicing it, right? Our apprenticeship goes back and forth from classroom time to on-the-job training. And it's just like you said, it's passing on that trade to someone. And you go out there and you might find a 3rd-year apprentice that's helping teach a 1st-year apprentice. And that's one of the best ways to lock in some of those skills is to pass it on. So from a very early part of the apprenticeship, we really encourage that. And then you're learning from people who might be months away from retirement that spent their whole life working in the industry. And so it's a very robust pathway, if you will.
I don't know if the electrical union uses this terminology, but the carpenters union uses the terminology brotherhood, right? And we've heard the terminology fraternity, and I think that folks all too often, is certainly in our focus right now, increasingly on having a diverse workforce. We misunderstand the term fraternity, which is actually not related to men only, for example, and in the same way that a brotherhood is not men only. But I think that it's really important to emphasize that this concept is, anyone can go out and become an electrician. in my home state of South Carolina, there's not a requirement process for unionization of electricians. Pretty much anyone can become an electrician. In certain states, that's not true. To be a licensed electrician or to be in a sort of paid program, it's required to be in the union. Is that right?
That's not true.
It's not true.
There's non-union electrical contractors.
Okay.
There's union contractors.
Yep.
And yeah, it's an industry that's overall,
Yeah.
but we represent the unionized electrical workforce, the organized labor part of it.
Perfect.
But yes, there's both.
So for those folks that are trying to make that distinction, how and why they would choose to work with a union shop versus a non-union shop, what are the arguments for it?
Sure. So let's see. I mean, I find it right now we're undergoing a really good social conversation about workforce development, workforce training, the longevity of a career, but then also like the safety and representation that I think that we focus a lot on in organized labor.
Yeah.
And it becomes something that people are looking for a sense of belonging as well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. You know, when I talk to these individuals that are looking for a career pathway, obviously like pay, right? Pay is a big thing. You want to make sure that you're able to support yourself, your family, contribute to your community, right? Healthcare, retirement. But I think another pillar is that sense of belonging and belonging to an organization and having that fraternity, having those people that are there for you, that build that career pathway. And I think that that's something that that workers are really calling out for in a way. And we see this around the country with different organized labor moments popping up.
So we'll talk about the Renewable Energy Fund in a minute, but I'm curious, from your perspective, you know, there are certainly folks, as I've been in the industry for 18 years in the solar industry, there are folks on both sides of the fence. Like Solve has always been focused on employing union electricians. Many others have, you know, lambasted and spoken poorly of unionized labor. Why do you suppose it is a cornerstone of the IRA to incentivize unionized labor and apprenticeships in particular? Could you talk about the importance of that as a part of the construction industry?
I think one of the things that when we look at the apprenticeship, like our apprentices undergo over 8,000 hours of on-the-job and classroom training, right? So when you know that you're bringing on an organization or a company that is signatory with the IBEW, you're employing a workforce that has undergone that training. If they've served an apprenticeship. And especially in the electrical world, I mean, there's so many safety concerns. All the hazards of a construction site and all that are really first and foremost on our minds as we introduce individuals to this industry. And we don't want them going out there and get hurt. So we start right at the beginning with safety, proper training, all the basics of electrical construction, right? And that becomes something that I will extend then. And you'll see that with developers looking for that, where they know what that base knowledge skill is of individuals that they be getting out there, of having that insurance of what the quality of that workforce. So being qualified persons. And there's definitions of that in the National Electrical Code. Here in Illinois, the Illinois Commerce Commission has those definitions, and we fit into those. So it becomes a very easy transition or a very easy choice then in my mind on making sure that you are participating in the programs for both incentives and all of those sorts of things that go with it.
Are there any statistics top of mind for you around the efficacy of journeyman or apprenticed electricians, folks who've actually gone through the process and they're part of IBEW versus non-union?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't speak to the non-union side as far as the trainings go and the numbers. I could share a little bit of our percentages and things that we see with some of our training organizations. So one of the programs I help run is called the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund. That's a statewide program throughout Illinois. It's workforce development and training. Here in Chicago, we work directly with Local 134 for training, and then also that career pathway, that first job, right? I say that a career is made up of many jobs as we go through it, but we're not just training them and then saying, hey, good luck. Good luck finding something in this very competitive, world that we see. We're saying, hey, we have this training, and then on the other side of it, we have job placement with a signatory contractor. So then they get to go out to work and start that pathway, right? And in our programs, for example, we have 2020 was a very challenging year for everybody. We ran workforce development programs here in Chicago. We're still seeing a really good number of people who have transitioned to a full apprenticeship, because what we help run is a transition, a guidance towards an apprenticeship program, right? They still have to apply for the full apprenticeship program with Local 134 or any of the surrounding locals. But what we do is we help them on that pathway, right? Make it so we remove barriers, right? We assist with that. That could be travel vouchers, that could be training stipends, that could be work boots, removing the barriers that someone might see on trying to get out there and not only end up on the job, but also be comfortable on the job, properly outfitted on the job, so that way they're able to comfortably enter that career
It makes
path.
that career introduction more accessible to more communities as well, because you can imagine that. I mean, I grew up in a carpenter family. It is very expensive, the startup cost of becoming a carpenter. I can imagine an electrician as well. Every electrician I know comes on site with way more tools in their belt than a carpenter ever thought about carrying, right? And apart from that is the knowledge of how to use the particular devices and how to do that safely. You know, the biggest safety concerns for other trades are whether or not you might lose an appendage, right? A finger or smash something. Whereas
at
electricians,
heights or falls and things,
exactly. Especially if you're doing high construction.
Absolutely.
Electricians from zero altitude take their life in their own hands every single day.
It's an interesting thing, and I do want to talk. I don't want to ignore the first question about where you asked about some of the transitions into that career pathway. But even during challenging years like 2020 with COVID, we have pre-apprenticeship programs where we took them in, had them apply for an apprenticeship program. We had 60% transition into a full apprenticeship.
Wow. Okay.
In the last couple of years, we've hit 80%. So that's individuals coming to us, seeking that, not that job. We can have a job conversation all day long, but what we're talking about is a career.
4 out of 5 are coming in and taking the training and then moving forward into a career as
moving forward, not only, but also applying for an apprenticeship, getting accepted into an apprenticeship, and then beginning it.
Wow.
And then students coming to us as second year, third year, fourth year apprentices coming to us and saying, that changed my life. Thank you for that conversation and that opportunity. And it's not me giving them that opportunity. It's the organization and it's the sector.
On average, how much can an apprentice in Local 134 expect to make a year?
Sure. So it's not uncommon. So our career is based on hours, right?
Okay.
Hours, right? Hourly wages.
Sure.
It is not uncommon after an apprentice finishes their apprenticeship to make $100,000 or more a year in their pay. But really, what has to be talked about is the
finishing the apprentice. That's a 4-year.
We have a 4-year communications electrician program and a 5-year construction program.
Got it.
So all the renewable work besides any of the data acquisition is a 5-year construction.
Got it. So after a 5-year program, the equivalent of whether of potentially going to college, you come out making 6 figures a year in income.
And on top of that package is healthcare package paid for on your behalf, multiple pensions paid for on your behalf, those social groups to belong to and come to meetings and participate in what is collective bargaining then in that capacity. And I know you mentioned safety as well, and I think that's something, it's really fun being at events like this because we're all here for what is the renewable energy transition.
Yeah.
Right? What's going on with that? Where do I find a role in that and all that? And we're all coming here and having these conversations. And most of these conferences now are largely electrical based, right? I mean, we could talk about solar thermal and some of those things, but really the building electrification, the electrification of our transportation systems, and then also moving to whether it's solar or whether it's photovoltaics or wind, which is an indirect solar source. It's electrical systems. It's electrical systems that we're building. And I think that the young folks who are coming to us especially, they can see that transition of what it will look like, and then they get to participate in building it. And I just see they're already coming with their eyes lit up about what the future might hold for them. And then to be able to plug that passion into what will be a very viable career pathway so that they can support themselves, their family, their communities is powerful. It's one of my favorite things to see and watch that develop. And
as you were talking, I remembered that I was referring earlier to this concept of brotherhood. And I think that we say IBEW so often that we often forget that the B stands for brotherhood.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And to your point earlier about, we have brothers and sisters and siblings in the organized world. And something that's important to note is that first year apprentice starts out at 40% of the journey level electrician scale here in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
It does not matter their background.
Wow.
Doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter their gender. Right. That's what and then they work their way through that apprenticeship, and there's an equality to that.
That's beautiful.
And I think people are drawn to knowing that they have that.
That's beautiful. They're making
in front of them
out of the gate $20, $30 an hour, and guaranteed a career if they continue down the path and meet all the requirements of, 60, 70, $100 an hour. Many union electricians can make upwards of $200 or $300 an hour.
Absolutely.
Depending on the trade and the relative risk of the job they take on. Would you be able to provide a little bit of a comparison? Because there are some folks that are trying to decide. They don't really know what. I've got a 13-year-old. In 5 years, he's going to be trying to make this decision. Do I go to college, Dad? Or do I pursue some other form of a career? What sort of college comparison can you provide?
That's a great question. And the ever question of someone coming out of high school, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes individuals know what they really want to do.
Yeah.
And if that's something that is a college pathway, I encourage them. What I always say is I encourage you to find it is that what's going to kind of get you going and lead to that joyful life and where you want to plug in with your career. But I also say, where can you find that where there's an intersection of being able to provide for yourself and your family and community as well, right?
Yep.
And so what happens with, it's interesting enough with our apprenticeship, after the first, second, and third year of full-time school, an individual is about 15 credits away from an associate's degree.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's an associate's degree that during my 5th year of the apprenticeship, I actually sought out those classes.
Yeah.
And so it was about the time as I was graduating from my apprenticeship, I graduated with an associate's degree in construction technology as well.
Well, there you go.
And now that associate's degree is a very cheap associate's degree because while we're in classroom, a second and third year, we're also paid to be in the classroom.
Exactly.
So
it's also a very portable degree.
Exactly. So instead of paying out for college credits, we were actually getting paid to accumulate college credits, and then we go and accomplish it there.
It's so interesting to me because a lot of folks, it's certainly like inner city or low-income communities, they look to places like the military as the only option to get school paid for, right?
Yeah.
Their one goal, and the reason they put their lives on the line, the reason they go abroad and they literally put their lives on the line is so that they can receive an education.
Yeah.
For the hope of coming home and having a free education. And they are for the most part, likely not exposed to the idea of the kind of investment that a union job will make in them and their career to the point of being able to even get an associate's
degree out of it. And then on top of that, what we have is we have members that after they finish their apprenticeship, some will consider that they want to be a project manager, be an estimator, be a designer, especially in this renewable world. Right? We have a need for all of those positions as well. We have individuals decide that they're going to open up their own contracting business and become a business owner themselves. So we say it's not and it's not either one or the other for college. It's both and. You can choose both. You can come out of it with a degree. You can continue on that pathway afterwards. You can also then decide that you're going to have upward and outward. You're going to start your own company. We have all those support mechanisms. And we know that we need we have so much work ahead of us with the renewable transition that it's an exciting time. And it's also kind of a very interesting time to talk about people coming into it and knowing, hey, you're coming out of high school. Look at the world that's being built now. And many of them are ready to jump in. It's really more fun than it is work on my end because I get to see this.
Exactly. And for folks who, again, as you said, maybe aren't so certain which direction they want to take in their career, instead of spending a lot of money in college, by the time your peers are graduating college alongside you, you could have an associate's degree, mostly paid for by the Brotherhood, and have earned upwards of $200,000, $300,000 at the same time that your peers incurred that much in debt for education.
It's not uncommon for our first, second year apprentices to buy their first house. Right. Buy their first house as they're going through that program, and then leaving the apprenticeship program without any debt, besides maybe a mortgage. But not having that racked up debt that can lead to
phenomenal
struggling for a bit afterwards. But we could talk all day on this stuff.
Joe Kilcoyne is a local 134 business representative here in Chicago, Illinois. Also represents Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund, doing workforce development and training, bringing new, fresh talent into the solar revolution, into the clean energy revolution. It's really enlightening to be able to hear the various pathways that folks can take to get into a career that lasts much longer than an apprentice program. And thanks to the IRA and many other investments in our communities, apprenticeships across the board, not just in IBEW, are really getting a new sort of fresh wind, as it were. Joe, thank you for taking the time to explain it to us.
Absolutely, Nico. Can I add one more thing here?
Absolutely, please.
When we're talking about this transition into the placement of a career, right? So we're placing these individuals with a contractor, right? Which is phenomenal in a rare situation, but we actually place them so that they have a home when they go out there to work,
Yeah.
right? And at this conference, Midwest Solar
Expo.
Expo, we have over 30 contractors here
Wow.
walking around, talking with the developers and doing that. So it's
Fantastic.
like, it's that, it's a very big organization and program. And
Yeah.
when you have that behind you with these individuals, then they have the world in front of them to start building.
The world is in front of you as well to start building your own career. Hopefully this has been insightful for you. Thanks for joining us at the Midwest Solar Expo. We're live at the Suncast Media Zone, brought to you by Solar Simplified. I hope you'll tune in again for the next conversation.